Um, when I look at your platform, you have 7 focuses. These 7 focuses that I've seen include honor God, a more humane and powerfully productive economy, reproductive responsibility, breakthrough for Black Americans, a new normal for healthcare, women's empowerment and proactive protection, and a new era in education. If you could, I'm not sure if you use Twitter. Um, a lot of a lot of people have short attention spans. So if you could give us your Twitter answers as far as a summary for those 7 pillars, if you would.
So to clarify, what you were reading was 7 out of 20 visionary platforms. So we just started to release them, and we just release number 7. We'll release, I think, 8 through 12 over the next few days. We actually have 3 focus areas: pro-human, pro-prosperity, and pro-protection. Those are our focus areas. And guess what? All those other issues you mentioned fall into those categories. But we did exactly what you said. We wanted to disarm people from locking themselves into one issue, because people have started to vote on just one issue. We want people to vote on vision. We say, let the best vision win. So in a pro-human nation, we care about life from the womb to the tomb, right? That also means that we're looking at all the areas that cause there to be disparities in life, discrepancies or inequalities in life, and we deal with those issues accordingly. You're going to find our education platforms under that. Shades of Breakthrough, which is how we look to serve historically underserved people groups differently. We have to be unapologetic about that now. We can no longer pretend that liberty and justice for all, just saying it, means that every group gets it. So we now have to create programs and platforms that go in and specifically target Native Americans, specifically target children, women, African Americans. So the Breakthrough for Black America goes under that Shades of Breakthrough plan. The Twitter answer for the other 2, pro-prosperity: how do we keep more of that green stuff in your pocket? That's the simple answer. How do we make sure that the money you have stretches, excuse me, farther than it did before?
Yes, ma'am.
And that means that we can't lie to you about the jobs numbers and pretend that we're having our best jobs numbers ever, when what it really means is that the average American is working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet. That's not good jobs number. That means that you're being underpaid and overworked. So we have to do something about minimum wage, raising the wages of American workers who help these incredible corporations build the American dream. Lastly, you have pro-protection. That's where we talk about, how do we keep Americans safe? How do we make sure that the justice system is treating everyone equally? Someone said, well, just stop committing crimes. You got it. That's it. And I said, okay, well, let's go there. Let's imagine that it's just an issue of who's committing crimes. Then where do we focus? So that the 2 people committing crimes, that they're a Black man and a white man both committing crimes, that the way they are given consequences is done equally. The way they are pulled over at a traffic stop is done equally. So, we can get into the mincing of words, but I think right now we want a vision of what the nation needs. Everybody wants to know that they're going to be treated justly. They want to have access to opportunity, and they want to be safe and secure, whether it comes to their health or their actual physical safety. And those are the things that we look to enable for people. And they can find more of that at the website that we mentioned earlier.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that answer. Now, for a lot of these things, it's going to take some moving around of some funding. And traditionally, um, one of the largest line items has been defense. And the federal budget is a macrocosm of what we see on the state levels. We see more money invested in policing than we see in education. I have a background in education.
Okay.
So, as far as shifting these things around, I'm curious as to how you're going to handle the pushback. So, what would help me in particular is, do you have an example of a situation that's going to get real job interviewing? You have an example of a situation where there was some opposition or objection to something you were trying to change, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, how much time do you have, right?
Yeah.
So, as a leader in different settings, what I realized very quickly was that change was rarely ever popular. So one of my superpowers is reframing change as opportunity. And what people need, for better or for worse, you can argue about it, but it just is what it is. People need to understand how everything affects them as individuals. Everything must be brought home to them. For instance, I remember having a climate change discussion with someone who just didn't even believe in a lot of the climate change theories, and they didn't feel like environmentalism was a top issue to tackle. You're in education. Here's what I've been saying. We've been talking about green policies all wrong. We've been trying to get average Americans to care about what's happening at the polar ice caps. Instead, let's talk about the lead pipes that are feeding polluted water into the kitchen sinks of many American homes. And then as a teacher, you're going to want to know that we've found a correlation between high lead levels in water and test scores. Just like that, something that we thought was this far off thing called green policy and climate change is right there in an American home and an American classroom. That is the transferable skill set, is I make those things that seem like big existential threats that we don't have to care about until 100 years from now, something that we must be concerned about today. And that's a knack of mine, and I think it is going to be one of the super skills required to navigate us through this divisive time that we're in.
Thank you. Now, what our previous president did, President Obama, is he brought the presidency into the 21st century. He made himself much more accessible to the public by utilizing social media. Do you see that as an opportunity for you to, or your administration, because when you're president, I don't expect you to have time to play on Twitter if you're actually working, but do you see that as something that could continue to be utilized to keep the public informed, or do you have something else in mind, like going back to the
fireside chats? Yeah. There it is. Listen, I'm a professional speaker by trade. I'm a concert artist by trade. I believe you should always have a powerful combination of inspiration, information, and entertainment. People want to be locked in, they want to buy in, and vision is that point of connection. So we do plan to use social media powerfully. A video has been crucial. Live stream, I think, is a powerful tool. I love communicating with people. People are shocked that I do spend a good bit of time responding to them in these social media platforms. I also thought as president, you wouldn't have as much time to be on Twitter, but I think we were all proved wrong with that. So what I did learn is there are at least 5 hours a day that some presidents either spend on Twitter or watching TV that we could be communicating powerfully. So we do have some exciting ways to connect. Again, speaking is a strong point of mine, and people need to be talked through these situations, not talked at and not instigated. And I think we're looking at, my administration would present an incredible era of not only transparency, but connection. And that's what we haven't had. And people don't want symbolism. You know, they don't want you to pretend like you're of the people or pretend like you're for them just when it's an election season. They want to have a window into the life that you're living in order to understand how you're serving them. How are you thinking about them? And I think that's an incredible opportunity moving forward. We're excited to take advantage of all the platforms available to really connect with the American people.
I have an idea. You could do some fireside chats where you talk to us and you play a little bit.
You got me back on that piano, right? Give you a little music on the side. Yeah, listen, I happen to believe that whatever skills and experiences we've built up over the years must come into play into whatever your future iteration is. I believe that my time as a musician lends itself to being able to create creative collaborations, to be able to think creatively, to be able to think critically. I also know that the discipline I've gained as a concert artist over the years and the way that I've had to exercise my mind and my thinking will definitely come into play as leader of the nation.
Yes, ma'am. Now, when you mentioned your pro-human, pro-prosperity, and pro-protection, it reminded me of a couple of those subcategories that would go under there, such as mental health
That's right.
and the arts. Speaking of piano,
Yes.
um, what are your ideas behind that, or why do you feel that it's significant to focus on mental health and the arts as well as the traditional areas that presidents and their administrations focus on?
We intentionally focused on areas you don't normally hear about in elections because we can pretend like everything boils down to healthcare and the economy. But even when you look at the reforms needed for Black America, that can't just be about policing reform. That has to be about education reform and economic reform as well. When you look at any improvement we need to make as a society, it's always multifaceted. The arts is a determiner of the temperature of a society. It's the determiner of where we're thinking and how we see ourselves. The arts has been undervalued for far too long. So I, as an artist, I'm excited to bring back the value, to restore value to the arts and support and security for independent artists. You're not going to hear another candidate talking about how we need to look at creating some kind of security for artists who suffered during the pandemic, independent artists. We saw the big institutions get millions of dollars, and even that was criticized. But there are individual artists, i.e., self-employed people, who suffered greatly during the pandemic. When we're sad, we go put on our favorite Diana Krall CD. We go listen to that music, and we get in our good space. That's an artist that literally is revolutionizing the atmosphere and the tone of your life at that moment. Yet we don't recognize artists as the economic drivers of the economy. I mean, you think about the arts and entertainment industry, it brings in more every year than transportation and agriculture. Yet we have devalued it. So we're looking to make sure that artists have the entrepreneurial skills they need, have the support they need to not only pursue their art, but to pursue it profitably and be able to have sustainable lives. Mental health is something that is not its own thing. You can't get around gun control without talking about mental health. You can't get around talking about how to bolster our military without dealing with mental health. You can't talk about reopening powerfully and opening schools now without talking about mental health. Lastly, you cannot talk about how to serve our current frontline healthcare workers without talking about the mental health epidemic we have set them up for, unfortunately, because they have not had time to recover from the first surge of COVID-19. We're seeing our healthcare workers commit suicide. We are seeing people suffering in despair and depression who don't have access to services like they used to. The mental health epidemic is really one of the next things health-wise we're going to have to deal with as a nation. And so that's why we're prioritizing it now to do something novel, which is to get out ahead of the next national emergency.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I understand that there are still a few states in which you still need support for ballot access. Is that
That's right.
still the case?
We are so excited. Listen, we're an independent. I'm running as an independent for a lot of reasons. Number one is so that when Americans see me, they understand I'm not on any one side, that I am, how did Shirley Chisholm say, unbought and unbossed, right? I get to come out, speak my mind freely, and serve as many Americans as possible. But it is a heavy lift for an independent. We're proud that in 44 states come November, you'll be able to vote for me. Either you'll see my name on the ballot or you'll be able to write me in officially as a registered write-in. That's not like how you go in and write in Donald Duck, or let's say you love Bernie Sanders and you write him in. Well, those votes would not count because Bernie Sanders is not registered in each state as a write-in. We will be. And then there are 8 states that don't allow write-in status, and we're working to get on the ballot. I'm here in Little Rock, Arkansas right now working to get on the ballot. We should have what we need by Sunday to be on the ballot here. We'll leave here to go to Mississippi and to Tennessee to work to get on their ballots as well. So Americans will either see my name or be able to write it in and have it count. People don't know this. As an independent, we also get to participate in the Electoral College. I get to choose my electors in every state. And when we win the popular vote in your state, the electors that we've pre-selected go to the state capitol and cast their electoral vote for me. So we do the same thing. We plan the strategy, the road, the path to the White House, just like the other major party candidates. We do that based on electors, just like everyone else. Here's the difference, though. I don't decide who I'm going to serve powerfully based on whether or not that state voted for me, based on whether or not it has the heaviest population of Republicans or Democrats. I get to serve each state because each state is worthy of being served. That means that what I'm doing differently than the other candidates is educating myself on the needs of each state, so that when I am in office, I'm able to say, Arkansas really got hit agriculturally during COVID-19. We must focus there. New Mexico really got hit where jobs were concerned during COVID-19. We must find solutions that will directly impact that state. You haven't seen that kind of care and concern on a statewide basis for a long time. We're excited to bring back true compassion and grit to the White House.
Thank you.